wonder, if you want true context of what's happening and what people are concerned about, then this meme tells it all. And just yesterday I went onto NASA Worldview, and this is the Laptev Sea. I think it's somewhere near where the Lenau River comes out, and we've got large areas of blue ocean as well as large areas of melt, very, very close to the 80 degrees north line. But I reckon there's something in the water, or there's something happening astrologically, that there's trouble right across the world. And I'm just going to go through a very few pictures, examples of this that span the globe. They're just one day's worth of headlines, because no one will ever give you this this sort of perspective or joining of the dots in the mass media. So these are just the plain facts. And then the latest news overnight, out of the Persian Gulf, Iran has seized a foreign tanker smuggling fuel in the Persian Gulf, according to Iranian state media. Iran has seized a foreign tanker smuggling fuel to some Arab states. Iranian state TV reported the development as the latest escalation in tension in the Persian Gulf. The tanker was seized by the Islamic Republic Guard Corps, the powerful Iranian paramilitary force. An IRGC commander was cited as saying that the tanker had 700,000 litres of fuel on board, and the report said that the 7 crew members had been arrested by the Iranian authorities. It is the third tanker seized by Iran in the Gulf of Oman in the past several weeks. One of the ships had links with the United Arab Emirates, while another one was British flag. So there'll be more on this, I'm sure. The Indian subcontinent, trouble between India and Pakistan is raising its head in Jammu and Kashmir. So this is coverage from Sputnik. The former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir placed under house arrest amid turmoil in the region. Jammu and Kashmir, an area disputed by India and Pakistan, is currently in a state of turmoil over reports of alleged forthcoming terror attacks. Former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Omar Abdullah, has reportedly been placed under house arrest amid rising tensions in the disputed region. The minister wrote about the arrest on his Twitter page. So we have that. And then Pakistani Prime Minister vows to respond to any Indian aggression amid rising border tensions. The tensions between the two states escalated after India and Pakistan forces clashed along the line of control on the 30th of July. Both sides have accused each other of breaking the ceasefire, and Imran Khan said the country would respond to any Indian misadventure or aggression after meeting with the National Security Committee on the 4th of August in the wake of renewed clashes at the line of control. Islamabad condemned the use of violence in the ongoing conflict between the two countries. Well, if you've got the Russian media being relatively sort of balanced in this, that's fairly neutral language. If you look at this, it's not. This is from The Guardian. There's no neutral language. It takes side. India's wrong, Pakistan's right. People queue for hours for petrol and cash following the evacuation of thousands of tourists and pilgrims. So thousands of tourists and Hindu pilgrims have been evacuated since Friday after the Indian government cancelled the annual Amarnath Yatra, a 45-day pilgrimage to the Himalayan cave shrine. Yeah, a lot of the language is very, very partisan from The Guardian. So I'll go to another very partisan source. This is Hal Turner, but he does talk about things that nobody else will talk about, and yeah, sometimes he's way off the mark, sometimes he's correct. So let's just see. He's saying, with military tensions skyrocketing between India and Pakistan, the government of Pakistan has imposed a limit on cash withdrawals from its banks. People are now limited to 3,000 Pakistan rupees, that's $18 a day. How anyone can even eat lunch under such limitations is a question now faced by millions inside Pakistan. And he's given various updates. Broadband internet services have been cut in Kashmir, complete internet ban in the valley now. All phone services have been suspended in the Kashmir Valley. Cell service, phone lines, cable, internet, complete communications shut down except satellite phones. It's a total communications blackout. And then Indian Army and Air Forces just went to high alert. India imposes Kashmir lockdown, puts leaders under house arrest, etc., etc. So I suggest you follow this fairly closely. This has just raised its head and it's not going to calm down. There's trouble that I believe is being created. There's nothing peaceful about today's protesters. So these are just a few things from the South Morning South China Morning Post. As it happened, tear gas fired, chaos in multiple locations as Hong Kong protesters play cat and mouse game with the police. Further clashes follow mayhem on the streets of Kowloon the night before as the political crisis over now shelved extradition bill grips the city. Groups splinter off into other districts and target police stations. And then you've got Hong Kong prepares for transport nightmare and massive flight cancellations. A citywide strike against extradition bill crisis targets the MTR, I think that's the metro, airports and roads. So all of these headlines are just a few hours old. And then Hong Kong play catch up as anti-government protesters wreak havoc across the city. And then we've just got a few minutes here. I won't play the whole thing, but so there we are. So, and then meanwhile, we've got the Western media. You can see here, this is from the Guardian. Hong Kong protesters use flash mob tactics to evade police. And of course, they're described as protesters. And you can see the language here. As the protests on, demonstrators have begun shifting strategies while authorities arrest more people and deploy harsher tactics against them. Police have arrested more than 60 people and charged 44 of them with rioting, a crime that could mean up to 10 years in prison. The protesters are trying to use up the energy of the police. We don't want anyone arrested or hurt anymore, so we didn't stay in set places. We can be more flexible. So this is completely taking the side of what is probably now was a protest and is now a mob. And in the meantime, um, they criticize authorities in Russia uh, and in Hong Kong, while at the same time they completely ignore. We've had 38 weeks now of demonstrations in France. So we've got this tweet from Sarah Abdallah. Western media is all over the protests happening in Russia and Hong Kong, but when it comes to the huge anti-Macron Yellow Vests rallies in France, strong, going for the 38th week in a row today, it's nowhere to be found. So all quite peaceful until the cops come along and start throwing tear gas and shooting people's eyes out and so forth. So yeah, balance in the Western media? I think not. So this article from Guy Millier at the Gatestone Institute. France is slowly sinking into chaos. And I won't read the article. Goes through Paris, Champs-Élysées, Bastille Day. Just before a military parade begins, Macron comes down the avenue in an official car to greet the crowd, and the crowd boos and hurls insults. At the end of the parade, a few dozen people release yellow balloons into the sky and distribute leaflets saying the yellow vests are not dead. The police disperse them quickly and firmly. Months later, hundreds of Antifa anarchists arrive, throw security barriers on the roadway to erect barricades, start fires, and smash the storefronts of several shops. The police have a rough time remastering the situation, but early in the morning, after a few hours, they restore the calm. A few hours later, thousands of young Arabs from the suburbs gather near the Arc de Triomphe. They have apparently come to celebrate in their own way the victory of an Algerian soccer team. More storefronts are smashed, more shops looted, Algerian flags are everywhere, slogans are belted out. Long live Algeria, France is ours, death to France. Signs bearing street names are replaced by signs bearing the name of Abd el-Qadir, the religious and military leader who fought against the French army at the time of the colonization of Algeria. The police limit themselves to stemming the violence in the hope that it will not spread, and so forth. So I think this is probably well worthwhile a read. So I'll leave this. And then in Moscow, there are huge demonstrations. Again, there were more arrests. I'm just going to kind of focus on this one thing. It's from the Russian point of view. Moscow unauthorized rallies organizers sought to drag citizens into riots. The Moscow authorities had warned the rallies participants about their responsibility and they must not violate the law. Organizers of unauthorized rallies in the Russian capital sought to involve their participants in riots. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said in his interview with TVC, shown by Russia 1 TV channel on Sunday. Obviously, not all who attended the rally had expected this scenario, but the organisers apparently sought to drag them into riots, Sobyanin said. According to the mayor, many of those who participated in the rally had no relation to the upcoming elections to the Moscow City Duma, parliament. Many participants of the riots had no relation to Moscow and, moreover, the elections to the Moscow City Duma. I'm sure Muscovites understand this very well, the mayor said, stressing that the riots were aimed at pursuing someone's political and selfish goals. And we're seeing this sort of trouble being, I would say, fomented. People have very genuine concerns. They come out onto the streets and then over a period of time, this metamorphoses into something very different. So I just hope that those attempts are not successful in Russia. Have thought that New Zealand was a sleepy little hollow. True, we had a mass shooting in March, and now we've got an occupation where local Maori are trying to oppose the takeover of their land for building for Fletcher Constructions. And the latest thing was that the police went onto the site with guns, and so we've got this armed police at Ihumātao as a provocation. After the outrageous overkill of the presence that saw this, so police turning up. Police were supposed to have responded to criticism that they were inflaming the situation by standing down, and we had the lovely police officer playing the guitar. But revelations today show that there are armed police at Ihumātao. So here's the police trying to hide the guns, and they've since come out and they said, first of all, it was fake news, and then they said they denied that they had guns. But how do you not have guns when you're carrying guns? That's the question. So, and he asked the question, what threat do the police believe at Ihumātao which retires guns? So yesterday and last night there were not one but two shootings. One on the border with Mexico in El Paso, Texas, and it's already been turned into a case of domestic terrorism, and the sole gunman who committed it has allegedly written another manifesto in which he cites the Christchurch shooter, Brenton Tarrant. So here we have from CNN, the El Paso shooter faces the death penalty in domestic terrorism case. Federal authorities are treating the El Paso mass shooting as a case of domestic terrorism, the US attorney for the Western District of Texas said on Sunday. The Justice Department is also seriously considering bringing federal hate crime and federal firearm charges which carry a possible death penalty. So we can only just imagine where this might go. And then here we are in Dayton, Ohio. There was another shooting. The Dayton shooter was armed with a mask, bulletproof vest, and hearing protection, police chief said, etc., etc. So this is their version. I suspect that there's going to be far less people are going to not be talking about this too much, but from the safety of thousands of miles away, we've already got Ben Vidgen in New Zealand asking questions about this, and he's saying that El Paso witness said that there were 4 gunmen, not one person but 3 reported in custody. So yeah, there's quite a lot here. The mayor declares 3 men in custody. So is this just fog of war? I don't know. Sometimes the indications that come out in the first hours are accurate. So and the police have confirmed numerous times multiple gunmen, etc., etc. So there are questions that need to be asked, and of course the question is, will they be able to be asked, because anyone who is involved in so-called conspiracy theories is now regarded by the FBI as a potential domestic terrorist. This is from Never Lose Truth. I often disagree with her on many things, but one thing I can't fault her on is her moral compass. She's absolutely got it together in much of what she says. So let's just listen to a few minutes.
Hi, everybody. I have to post this tonight. We really are now living in Nazi America. Oh, it's not coming. It's already here. We're living it. Our country is gone, and those still caught in the matrix, believing that Trump is going to save the day, I am honestly, I don't know what to say. This is a time when, my God, Americans, put away your petty differences, stop fighting, the Republicans if you're a Democrat, the Democrats if you're a Republican. We are going down fast. And soon enough, everyone will feel how tight the noose is around your neck, as others have already been taken out by that noose throughout the years, and we have seen it already happening. But now we are going to see or feel that noose tighten around our necks with a rapidity that will be shocking. Let me first start.
So we have that, and then she cites this article by John Whitehead, who I really like, from the Rutherford Institute, and this has appeared in Zero Hedge under the title "The Rise of the American Gestapo." Despite the finger-pointing and outcries of dismay from those who are watching the government discard the rule of law at every turn, the question is not whether Donald Trump is the new Adolf Hitler, but whether the American police state is now the Third Reich. For those who can view the present and past political landscape without partisan blinders, the warning signs are unmistakable. The deep state's love affair with totalitarianism began long ago. So I will leave the description for both of those and for both those links down below.